The charges were defilement, and these were charges that were trumped up by my neighbor just because of issues of land. And while I was in Kodiaga, then it was not an easy place to be in terms of meals, in terms of even where we were sleeping. We went through hell. Speaking now, it's like people don't understand whether I'm out of my sense or what. But I said to myself, I must forgive her, because then that's when I open the door to my own blessings. Despite the fact that my children suffered a lot, that is not an issue now, because none of them dropped out of school, despite the fact that they faced a lot of challenges. It's important that the community at large sees ex-convicts as people who have reformed, and even others are there for the went there for the wrong reasons. And not everybody who is outside there is good. Most people are wrong. It's only that they have not found on the wrong side of the law. My names are Ben Momanyi, and I was convicted in the year 2007 at Nyamira Law Courts. The charges were defilement, and these were charges that were trumped up by my neighbor just because of issues of land, and it is an issue that we thought we could solve at that level, but then I never knew that it shall escalate to that. So she decided to frame me up with her daughter, who then was around 16 years old, so they said. And it is something that really affected me, because I didn't know that maybe it would go far or it would take me several years to come out of it. So after, in the year 2007, when I was convicted, I was taken to Kisii prison, where I stayed for only a day before I was then transferred to Kodiaga, which was considered a maximum prison. And I want to say that it was not something that was easy. Rather, it came in as a shock, because none expected that I will end up being convicted, because I thought the evidence that I had been brought before the court against me was not substantial enough to warrant me a conviction. But then I was sentenced to serve 20 years in prison. It was a sad day, I want to say, and it was one that broke down my heart, not only my heart, but because I remember then I didn't want to where I was working, told the students that I'm coming back in the afternoon for some assignment. So instead of going back, I went to Kisii. And while I was in Kodiaga, then it was not an easy place to be in terms of meals, in terms of even where we were sleeping. We went through hell. And but I want to thank God, because it was gracious, and the fact that there were appeals gave me a motivation that I should not give up, because then we had an appeal that was before me, that is at the High Court, and therefore all my hopes were that I would be released at that point. So let me say that within the time I was at Kodiaga, because I knew that I had not done this, I was not left with anything other than prayer, because I was a Christian. So basically, I remained trusting God that at some point I'll be set free. And therefore, we kept on praying, and my family stood with me. They could come visit me, at least on a monthly basis, my wife, my children, my relatives, and my pastors and other friends. And that really gave me some light that at the end of it all, I'll be a free man. So while I was there, my conduct was noticed, because then I knew that I was not a criminal, so I was not to live a life that is contrary to what I believed I was not. And it was as a result of that I was elevated to the highest ranking that a prisoner can be ranked to, and that is being a trustee. And I was a trustee for a period of 8 good years. And I want to say that for the period I was in prison, not even a single day was I ever charged or found with any other mistake, or taken to maybe the office for some disciplinary cases. And therefore, I want to thank God that the officers noticed that I was of substance, and I could even help other prisoners in rehabilitating them. And it's for that reason that we formed the various groups within the prison, that were meant to help others nurture their talents in terms of those who are footballers and volleyballers. We had sports, and I was the head. I was the head of a school that was within Kodiaga prison. I was the head teacher. And that also helped me to integrate well with my students, who are, of course, my fellow inmates. But then, they had to give me respect because I was the head teacher. And therefore, that I want to say also helped me a lot. But let me say that life in prison is not one that is encouraging, because many go to prison for offenses that they never committed. And therefore you find that somebody is serving his jail term with a lot of anger, with a lot of bitterness. And therefore this person, it's like, when I'll get out, my complaint I shall see it. And that is why we have this recidivism, or rather an issue whereby we have people going home and coming back to prison, because prison, I want to say categorically that people don't go to prison to rehabilitate. Rehabilitation is a personal issue, it's a personal thing. And therefore when someone goes to prison for 20 years, 15 years, so that he comes back rehabilitated, the opposite is actually true. And therefore I want to say that for me, the fact that I knew God, I was the church of the Seventh-day Adventist Church within the prison, and I was the head teacher, as I have already said. We had some support group. I was also the chairman. And I got an opportunity to speak before very senior people in this country, those who visited our prison, that was Kodiaga, and one of them being CJ Mutunga, former. And they all liked the way I could present issues. And I want to say that because of what we did, God also we had favor before the Lord, and that is why finally, when even before the expiry of my time of coming out of prison, I remember that I was in some prison and I gave a presentation, and the judge then, who was in that particular district, let me say county then, he asked the officer in charge as the reason as to why, if first of all I was a prisoner, because the attires as a trustee you wear is different from the rest of the prisoners. And the officer in charge told me that is a prisoner who has been here for the last 11 years and has been a trustee for 8 years. So he wanted to know, like, what are the functions of a trustee. Then he was told, a trustee is one who helps us to rehabilitate these people. He takes care of them. Sometimes we send him to the shops, and he goes without any escort of an officer. So it's at that point that that judge then asked, should he be around? Why should he not be at home? Because if you are saying he's a Christian, he's the one who is helping you to rehabilitate other people, you do send him here and there, and he does not need an escort of an officer, then don't you think that this man should be at home? The officer judge said yes, he should have been at home even as late as yesterday. So then it's at that point that he ordered for a probation report, which was presented before him. It was very positive because my people from home, from my locality, they knew that I didn't do the offense. I had a lot of support. So the probation report favored me. And as a result, based on that report, I was able to come out of prison even before the expiry of my time. And I want to say that when I was coming back home, it was a huge function. It was a big ceremony, because on the day of my release, I know I was waited at the church, though I arrived late in the evening, around 7 o'clock. But there was a very huge crowd of people that was there to receive me home. So I was escorted home as a king, and I want to thank God that it's not even it's not common. And then the church now organized for a day that we were supposed to have that grand reception into the church. And that is when now we had officers based from Kisumu, Kodiaga, Kibos, others came from Kihanja, others came from Migori, Kisii town, others came as far as from Nakuru, Mombasa. We had the chaplains department that as well attended. And I want to say that we had a wonderful function, and it was aired on TV, Citizen, it covered it, and I remember the Acadian Standard were there, Radio Maisha were there. And then if I want to say that from there, that is a function that as well was attended by the chief, the assistant chief, and all other people. And therefore, talking about a criminal, as perceived criminal, somebody who's coming from prison and received in that way, and then it also spoke something to the locality and to other people that indeed not everybody who goes to prison is indeed a criminal. Some go there for framed up churches. Some go there for the very wrong reasons. And therefore, when you find yourself going into prison, coming back well and alive and very strong in your faith, it takes God. And I also want to add that our people should not think that, our people should not tend to think that going to take somebody to prison is like, because I realize that most people, so long as you have, especially women, when they have a girl child, then they tend to think that now they have a tool, a weapon with which to take anybody to prison, including even your own wife. She can use it against you. But again, the repercussions are bitter, because I want to say that I had an experience where we have had several people who could come and, say, why women come to prison, they start crying, saying, I was told to say that he did it. And I didn't know that he will end up being convicted to serve 20 years. But that is how things happen. So I want to say that let our people be educated, let them be highlighted, because even we have some prosecutors who mislead those who are in remand. They tell them, go and accept so that the judge can have mercy on you. But who told you judges have mercy, much stress? They don't have. The moment you say, yes, I did, then you are done, you are finished. So the rest is appeal, and appeals is 50-50. You cannot be sure that you shall be released because you made an appeal. But I want to say that while I was in prison, I helped a lot of people get out of prison by writing them their appeals. We could go through their proceedings, because we had also the legal department. That is, we had the legal department within the prison, whereby I was also heading. So we could write appeals to some of our colleagues. Remember, we are doing that at no cost, and most of them went home. And I want to say that some of them, even on 29th, that was just the other day, I was at Kibos Main Prison. We went to see them. I went with a team of some of those people that I helped come out of prison, and we went there with some soaps and to make them know that we were part of them at some point, but God saw us through. We are out, and we still have a life to live. So we gave them a lot of hope. In fact, it was wonderful. It was colorful. They were happy to see us once again, and when we donated whatever we had to them, they were happy. I want to say that the prisoners are people too, and therefore they should not be seen from the negative perception that they are wrong people in their society. But as well, I want to address the judiciary, that you find in most cases, most of the judges, they see you guilty as charged, which is not supposed to be like like when you appear before a magistrate, before a judge on a case of defilement. Even before they hear your side of the story, they have already made up their mind to convict you. And I want to tell you for free, because I've gone through the system, we have so many people today who are rotting in prison for offenses they never committed. That is for a fact. And every day you wake up in the morning, you ask yourself, why am I here? And don't find an answer to that. And I want to say that this has really affected some of them. Even our children at home, you find that you are in prison, your children are suffering at home. It is you who has been convicted because of an offense. Your children now lack education. There is not lack of family, there's not that family disintegration. The wife has gone. So somebody goes home after 10 years, you're going back home, no wife, no children, no land, with no money from prison. Now my question is, how do they expect you to start life? So the government should also come up with policies in which they should also address issues of people who are living in prison after spending quality time in prison. Because most of them, when they're in prison, they do a lot of things for the government for which they are not paid. So we should have some payment scheme for people who are living in prison, so that by the time somebody is going home, he does not go home bare-handed, so that again he goes back to crime. So that's what I must have to say. But most importantly, it is important that we understand judges are not the ones who deliver justice, because what could be considered as justice to somebody could be injustice to another person. Because if you have a lawyer, for example, like now in the appellate courts, you go there, and then you are told, here we handle issues of matters of law and not matters of fact, and you are a layman. What's the difference between a fact and you don't understand what's the difference between matters of law and matters of fact. So you go on rotting in prison for an offense which, if you could have had some legal knowledge, probably you could have gone home. So it is something that we should address and address positively, that people should be visited in prison. Those who have been there for a long time, for some period of time, let them be given some opportunity again to get back home, and then they are followed up, so that if they are doing well at home, they as well they are received positively. Finally, after leaving prison, as I have already indicated, I was like, where do I start life from? It is at this point that again I found that where I used to work before I went to prison, they came and then asked me to work with them on a contract basis, because they realized that I was a right man with them, and that even during my absence, wherever I was doing the right things. And therefore, I want to say that even also those who are coming out of prison, it's important that their reputation is positive, it's good. That way it gives them an opportunity to reintegrate well, even to get somewhere to work. And that is what I want to say, that it's important that the community at large sees ex-convicts as people who have reformed, and even others are there for the went there for the wrong reasons. And not everybody who is outside there is good. Most people are wrong. It's only that they have not found on the wrong side of the law. So that's what I think I should have to address. And again, I should even ask our government, that especially from the county government, let's have mechanisms in which we have people who, especially those who are coming out of prison, they are followed up. Let's have a system whereby those who have come out of prison and are deemed to be of good conduct, let them be observed in our county governments, so that they become a live testimony, live example to other people that indeed, and you know what, these are the people who have a lot of knowledge beyond people who normally visit prison, because they understand what happens in the system. So let our county governments observe some of us and tell us, work here. Now that we are working the county at this level, go out, meet youth groups, go out, meet these groups of people, talk to them. In these, let them take part in these, what we call these alternative mechanisms of solving disputes, because we understand, we know what's supposed to happen. And we have a lot of knowledge because we have been through the system. As opposed to like that person who came from prison is of no help. We are of much help. We are so much knowledgeable. It's only that we need an opportunity to even educate, to highlight, to educate, to inform the public on what's supposed to be done. And I want to tell you, with that, we shall be able to move ahead. Right, the first thing that I made to have peace in my heart, the first thing that I did, and as a Christian, I said, I must learn to forgive. So I let it go. I said in my heart that the Lord has a reason as to why this happened. So I forgave them. And not only even forgive them, in fact, I started praying for them while I was in prison. I would pray for them. So upon my release, to confirm to them that I had no issue, because I realized that those people who were benefiting out of their land because they were not at home. So there are people who were taking advantage of the absence to dig on their land, and therefore they were communicating to them, telling them, you know what, Ben is very bitter with you, because they didn't want them to come back. So I had to ask for the number of those people, their phone number. I called the lady, the woman the mother to the lady who had convicted me, who led my conviction. I called her, I told her what, it's Ben who is speaking. She couldn't believe, imagine. She was asking me, which Ben? I told it's Ben Momaya. Do you know what she said? She said, hallelujah, I'm happy that you are out. Then I told her, I want to confirm to you that I've forgiven you. I have no issue whatsoever against you. Come back home, do your things. So and then again she asked, are you for real? I told her, I'm speaking from the bottom of my heart, that I'm out here to confirm to you that I have no issue against you, because God has taken care of me. I'm back home. Why should I be bitter with you? So after giving her that confirmation, in fact, she kept on calling, because she's until finally she came. And when she came, she met me. We talked. People were shocked. They never thought I would say hi to her even. But I said, I have no issue against this lady. And as fate could have it, her father-in-law passed on just after she had come. And I'm the one who was leading the burial. I made sure that even I talked to the area MP and the other people, and we had a lot of vehicles transporting. I took charge of everything. And for sure, I want to say that even as we are speaking now, it's like people don't understand whether I'm out of my senses or what. But I said to myself, I must forgive her, because then that's when I open the door to my own blessings. Despite the fact that my children suffered a lot, that is not an issue now, because none of them dropped out of school, despite the fact that they faced a lot of challenges. So I forgave them, and I forgive them, and we do talk, both of them. In fact, you might not even know that we ever had issues. But on the burial day of that mama, mama, what she did, she called her father, biological father, came to me, called aside and said, we want to apologize in a very sincere manner. The father now, who was the father of the lady, came to me. We had a meeting, of which I assured them that I have got no issues against you. Then the father said, in fact, he blessed me, said, my son shall grow to be a big man. So I am a free man, and I have no issue against them. And also I want to say, maybe concerning my children, it was not something easy. In fact, that is the most devastating thing, because you realize that when you are absent, you are away from home, your children, you are not in touch with your family. And I had 2 children by the time I was going to prison, because my young girl then was around, it was in class 3, 7 years old, I think then she was. And after having been away, I came back when she was now in university first year. And you know, for all this time, it was the wife who was taking care of her. And my son then did not go to school. But thank God I was coming back. He was now in Form 1, KC school year. And my girl, as I've already indicated, now she's through with a university degree. And my boy is also, has also joined. He's doing engineering as well. He performed very well. And so I want to say that when you stand right with God, Lord cannot never leave you or let you suffer. We're all praying for opportunities to arise, and we bring this to the attention of the public and our county governments, that let them observe us, and we work with them in enhancing this legal knowledge to other people. That's what I think I must say.